Have you ever felt confined by life's challenges, wondering if there's a purpose behind your pain? Today I want to share a message that has brought light to countless others: the power of discovering purpose, even within the prison of our struggles. Just as Paul wrote from his prison, unyielding in his faith, we too can find divine purpose in places we least expect. Let's explore together, one revelation at a time. Ephesians 3:7-12 speaks volumes about purpose. In this letter, Paul reveals that even from a prison cell, he found a deeper meaning and calling. This passage isn't just a lesson in faith. It's a blueprint for understanding that purpose doesn't always appear on a stage or in grand gestures. Sometimes purpose reveals itself in the humble, hidden moments when God reminds us that we're exactly where we need to be. Paul writes not asking for a way out, but for a way to be of service right where he is. Here's the mystery of it all. We can be in chains physically, emotionally, or spiritually and still fulfill a divine calling. When Paul speaks of the eternal purpose of God, he's calling us to recognize that our lives have meaning beyond our personal goals or ambitions. Even when life limits us, our purpose is limitless because it is rooted in God. And that's what's transformative. Many times we think that being in purpose means we'll be celebrated or that it will be easy. But Paul's imprisonment teaches us that purpose is often born out of pain. If we lean into that, we'll start seeing our circumstances in a new light, not as obstacles, but as part of the greater plan God has designed for us. Paul's journey reveals a profound truth. God places us exactly where we need to be to fulfill our purpose, even if it doesn't look or feel like the ideal place. When I was just starting out, I felt that pull, called to preach, yet uncertain about the path. Like Paul, I experienced struggles and setbacks, times of solitude and travel, questioning where my next step would lead. But looking back, I see now that those very challenges were the foundation God was using to mold me. In our lowest moments, it's easy to feel misplaced or overlooked. Perhaps you too feel as though you're stuck in a situation that seems unrelated to your calling. But just as God placed Paul in a prison to spread the gospel, he places each of us where we are most needed. It may not be where we want to be, but God is moving behind the scenes, turning every interaction, every moment of discomfort, and every setback into part of his larger plan. And here's the incredible part. In these unlikely places, we often meet people who need what only we can give. Paul's journey was marked by connections that seemed random, but were divinely appointed. Each person he encountered was someone he was meant to reach. That's why it's vital to be attentive to the people and situations around us. They may be the very reason God has positioned us where we are. So instead of trying to escape your prison, I challenge you to ask, why has God placed me here? There is purpose in every place he sends us. And when we open ourselves to that, we discover the joy and peace of fulfilling our calling. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that purpose and pain often go hand in hand. Many of us expect purpose to feel fulfilling, even easy, but Paul's story reveals otherwise. He endured brutal hardships, imprisonment, and rejection, yet he remained focused on his calling. Instead of praying to escape his suffering, he asked God for strength to endure it, and remarkably, to use it. In our own lives, pain often brings us to a breaking point where we question everything. Why me, we might ask, or how can this possibly be part of God's plan? I've been there and I know how isolating it can feel. But here's what I've learned. Pain has a unique way of stripping away our distractions, forcing us to confront what truly matters. It's in these moments that God often reveals the depths of his purpose for us. Paul's life shows us that God can transform our pain into power. By choosing to focus on purpose rather than prison, Paul found a freedom that no physical cell could contain. In his darkest moments, he was still a light to others, sharing wisdom, encouragement, and the hope of Christ. He didn't let his circumstances silence his voice. Instead, he became even more effective in his ministry. So when pain threatens to overwhelm you, remember this: there's strength on the other side. Lean into the lesson and trust that God is using your trials to shape you into who you're meant to be. Purpose is resilient. It thrives even in our pain, and often that's where it becomes most powerful. One common trap we face is measuring our worth by worldly standards, success, status, or profit. But as Paul demonstrates, purpose isn't about profit, it's about alignment with God's will. When he was in prison, Paul wasn't thinking about personal gain or recognition. He focused solely on his calling, and as a result, he impacted lives in ways that were immeasurable. In our society, it's easy to confuse profit with purpose. We're often told that success means achieving material goals, but true purpose is different. It's driven by serving others and fulfilling the mission God has assigned us. When we live in our purpose, the profit comes in ways that can't be counted by bank balances or accolades. It shows up as a peace that only God can give, a confidence that we're walking in his will. When I first started in ministry, I too was tempted by the desire for worldly success. But over time, I learned that striving for profit alone can leave us feeling empty, even when we achieve it. True fulfillment comes from pursuing what God has uniquely equipped us to do. Sometimes that means stepping away from what the world considers profitable to focus on what truly matters in his kingdom. Paul's imprisonment teaches us that if we prioritize God's purpose over worldly profit, we'll be rich in ways that matter for eternity. Living on purpose gives us a sense of joy and fulfillment that no amount of money can buy. So, let go of the need for recognition and embrace the call God has placed on your life. Purpose isn't about being applauded. It's about being aligned with the one who sent you. One of the most powerful lessons Paul teaches us is how to stay committed to our purpose, even in our darkest hours. When he was locked away, beaten and alone, he didn't lose sight of his calling. Instead of allowing his circumstances to dictate his purpose, he allowed his purpose to transform his circumstances. He used his imprisonment as an opportunity to spread God's word, reaching people he might never have otherwise encountered. This unshakable commitment to purpose is a powerful reminder for us all. Life will inevitably place us in prisons of various kinds: emotional pain, financial hardship, difficult relationships, or personal loss. But if we look to Paul's example, we can see that God uses these prisons to deepen our purpose. Often it's in these moments of confinement that we learn the resilience needed to fulfill our calling. Paul understood that his purpose didn't end at the prison walls. Instead, he let his faith shine brighter within those walls, making an impact that rippled through generations. Sustaining purpose requires a few things. First, it takes a mindset that refuses to view limitations as dead ends. Paul didn't let his physical chains confine his spirit or his message. He remained free because his mind and heart were focused on Christ. Second, sustaining purpose requires a willingness to serve wherever God places us. Purpose doesn't only flourish in easy or comfortable circumstances, it grows strongest in adversity. By serving faithfully, even in prison, Paul demonstrated the strength of his calling. Finally, to sustain purpose, we need faith. Faith that God is working through our lives even when we can't see it. Paul's faith allowed him to look beyond the present moment and trust that his suffering had meaning. And in the same way, we must believe that every challenge we face is molding us, refining us, and bringing us closer to God's ultimate plan for our lives. So remember this: no prison is permanent, but God's purpose is. Hold on to that purpose with everything you have, and you'll find a freedom that can't be contained by any circumstance. Let your purpose carry you as it carried Paul through every trial. Thank you for joining me on this journey of purpose. May you discover the profound strength that comes when you embrace God's purpose, even in life's prisons.